Hi, I'm Rob Glover, and welcome to Be Happy and Feel Great. Today we have a pretty serious topic. Most days it's kind of light and we're happy and joking around. This is a topic that will get you to feel happy and be great, but it's a little serious, as I said. It's about addiction recovery and the coaching through it. Today we have a special guest, Christopher Michael, who is an addiction recovery coach. Chris, thanks. Welcome
Hi.
to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
You too.
Chris, just tell us what is an addiction recovery coach? A lot of people aren't going to know what that is, what it does. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is, what you do for people?
Okay. Well, I basically started out getting trained as a life coach. Addiction recovery coaching is a niche of life coaching where I specialize in helping people that have some type of an addiction, alcohol, drugs, anything like that.
Right.
You know, some people are even addicted to video games, so it could be
Right.
really anything. And I help them uncover the path, you know, that they need to take to overcome those obstacles. Coaching is really, it's not about telling somebody what to do. It's about helping them, you know, find the answers. Most people know what the answers are and know what they need to do.
Right.
But it's about keeping them accountable and helping them overcome the struggles of drugs and alcohol, which is a major problem that, you know, it's a serious problem
Right,
these days, and it seems to be getting worse at times rather than better. So.
Okay. Well, too, I guess, you know, as a addiction recovery coach, I mean, when people talk about this, they're going to want to know a little bit about you.
Right.
You know, and how did you get here? I mean, I
Right.
understood just from reading a little bit of your background. First, you went to a military school. I mean, and then you developed
Right.
from there.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Right. Yeah. Like I was saying, coaching in general is really helping somebody find the answers to what makes them happy and what they achieve their own goals, and whether it be drugs or anything else. You know, addiction recovery coaching isn't just about overcoming drugs, but it's about setting positive goals in your life and achieving them as well. So for me, I realized I was not on the right path for a career at a pretty young age. I was
Right.
lucky, you know. I went to a military academy, but it just didn't, it turned out not to be the right path I was on. And I was fortunate to be able to transfer and start studying psychology
Right.
and getting on a path more associated with helping people. And that led to a job as a mental health counselor. And that's where I really got my first experience working with others and helping people with mental illness, and also some people who had somewhat of a background, maybe with substance abuse. So
Right.
that was how that happened.
But I think that's great that you were going to a military academy. You know, you recognized that wasn't the path for you after trying it. You know, for a little while, you tried that a couple of years or whatever.
Yeah, 3.5.
Three and a half years you were into it. Then you recognized that wasn't the path for you.
Right.
Which is really what's part of all the Be Happy and Feel Great. You have to,
Right.
you know, find out what people like to do, what you like to do,
Right.
and occasionally make course corrections, if you will, to fix it.
Yeah.
So that's commendable.
Yeah.
And then what? I guess you discovered it sometime during then. You really like to help people.
It's funny. I always knew that. I had considered a similar path before I ever went to a military academy. I was in high school, you know, at the very beginning, trying to plan my future when I'm 17 years old or so. And my initial instinct was to go into psychology and some type of social work. But you know, I chose to put that path aside at the time and went with this military academy route for a while, and ended up coming back realizing I had been right all along, you know, several years later.
Right. Well, that's like I said,
took
that's good.
time.
You
Yeah.
found out and corrected your path.
Right.
Were there any, and not to get into your professional career today yet, but were there any early experiences in life that you found you like to help people, maybe a friend or, a cousin or something that you actually
Yeah.
helped to coach and point them in the right direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always found talking to friends and people that I'm close with. I've always had positive feedback from people that just informally as I
Right.
grew up, helping other people, talking through problems. It always kind of came naturally to me. I felt
Yeah.
like that from a young age.
Good,
Yeah, absolutely.
good. And when you were young or earlier in your adult years, were you exposed to any other life coaches or people that would help people like that, they were maybe a mentor to you or an example of what you could be?
Later, much later, yes. Initially, my experience was through counseling. I think that was where I got the most experience and was first introduced to even the whole concept of coaching.
Right,
Besides recovery coaching, just life coaching in general. Some of my clients that I worked with as a counselor actually also had support from a coach of their own to help them with their mental illness.
right.
So that's how I was introduced to the formal idea of coaching
Right,
somebody
right.
else.
Okay, and I guess to expand a little bit, at least to let the viewing audience understand some of your background, you say counselor. I mean, what kind of degree or certification did you get to do those type of things?
Oh, well, I started out with my degree in psychology, and I really just got my foot in the door with a great agency on Long Island, and I kind of worked my way up from just weekends. I started out just weekends, really no experience at all,
Right.
years back, and eventually moved up to a senior counselor at the company where I worked for another 4 or 5 years or so
Right.
after that. So, yeah, it was great experience working with people, helping people every single day.
Yeah.
Improve their lives, working on setting goals. Each person's very different, so their goals and their course of action to achieve their goals, varies
Right, right.
from one person to another. And that's where the coaching really stood out to me, because you let the person kind of lead their own. They identify the steps they want to take.
Right.
You don't tell anyone what to do. They know, if they have a certain goal, they know inside their own head, all right, this is what I need to do. You just keep them accountable.
Right.
Help them identify the steps that they're going to take. And that's very similar to what I was doing when I was working as a counselor.
Right. Okay, good.
So-
Yeah, so you're actually helping them chart a path somewhat, but you're really making sure on the accountability part
Right.
that they reach their goals.
Right.
Okay. And you talked about, first you were a counselor, kind of doing it part-time on weekends, whatever, then became a senior counselor. I mean, again, I think that's important for people to understand, is that you had a growing or evolving responsibility, right? As a senior
Absolutely.
counselor, what were some of the differences between a counselor and a senior counselor?
The amount of responsibility was tremendously increased between the weekend counseling and the senior counseling. The senior counseling was much more technical. It had a lot more to do with actually managing the medications and making sure the medications were, they were on the site when needed.
Right.
There was
Okay.
12 different people in the house that I was responsible for that were on as much as 10 plus medications
Really?
each. So there was, and it was really my job to make sure that every single day they received their medications correctly,
Right.
took them correctly, and that included trying to get them to do it independently themselves,
Right.
to try to work and practice remembering what their medication regimens were and really trying to increase their own independence. That was a common goal that we worked on, because many of these clients, their main problems would be triggered by not taking their medications correctly. Their symptoms would, that's when they would end up in hospitals. And my job was to try to really help them reintegrate into society, you know, one step at a time.
Good, very good, very good.
Right.
And again, when we talk about addiction, any kind of addictions, and of course you're helping with recovery, and I mean, drugs, alcohol, everybody knows about. I mean, you even alluded to earlier that, you know, people could be addicted to video games.
Right.
But what are some other addictions? I mean, it may sound almost foolish or elementary, but people don't know what kind of addictions are out there. What else is there that people can be exposed to, or maybe even parents or somebody should watch out for with their kids?
Right. Well, that is actually one of my main topics of interest is with parents. Today, a lot of the society today is a lot different. I was recently reading how in the 1980s, drugs and alcohol was very much on the, you know, declining. It was decreasing as a problem, and then in the 1990s, it resurfaced again, and all of a sudden, the effort wasn't there anymore in the media and governments to really fight the problems with drugs and alcohol. And ever since the 90s, it's really been increasing as a problem. But parents, I don't think today often don't really see it as much of a problem as it really is.
Right.
You know, if and kids younger and younger, I see that they really almost think that drugs and alcohol is more like a rite of passage that's expected of them. You know, once they get into high school, you know, particularly, it's a very dangerous time. It starts even in middle school, or, you know, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, where it's really starting, and parents don't seem to realize how dangerous you know, how dangerous addictions can be, and substance abuse. They don't take steps to prevent early on, you know, those choices, and try to instill, you know, it's not their fault. They just don't realize.
Well, I was going to say, not only do they not realize, do you think maybe, you know, from a lack of education or understanding, they don't know?
Yeah.
They don't know. They may not even know what the signals are or whatever else.
Yeah, a lot of times, especially if they never, you know, had any experience with drugs and alcohol. A lot of people assume, oh, that won't happen to my child, and you know, my child knows what my values are. But in reality, they never took time to really clearly establish, you know, what's expected of their children, and what values that they hold, what they, you know, and that they even care.
Right, but
you know?
we all know too, and again, it's kind of basic, but you know, any kind of addiction, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or something else, can affect from poor to the most rich people in the world.
Right.
So really, every family and every community should have their eyes open for it.
Absolutely, every parent.
Right.
And it doesn't. And waiting till they already see a problem, or there already is a problem, is a little too late. The way I see it, it's best to try to, from a young age, you know, appropriate, you know, when you don't have to get into things too specifically, you know, too young. But as someone's approaching middle school or so, it's really important to have an open dialogue. To, like I said, make it clear and talk about to your children what their value, what you expect of them.
Right. So you're saying silence isn't a good thing. It's best maybe to sit around the kitchen table and talk about things.
You can't assume that your children understand what, you know, what the risks are and what the dangers are. And especially there's so much influence with media and movies and music that kids are hearing. You know, it's really crucial to have parents that are close to their children and talk to them about the reality of the situation. You know, it's well documented that closer relationships with children, between the parents and the children, is beneficial in preventing
Right.
future problems with
problems.
substance abuse.
But also, I guess, today's economy, right, with most everybody struggling. You know,
Right.
a lot of people are working 2 jobs. A lot of people don't have jobs.
Right.
You know, so I guess, you know, that makes it tougher too to spend time with your kids and quality time.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, and parents are under pressure, and you know, even also more susceptible in those cases to turning to something like alcohol or prescription medications,
Right.
which are another major problem now. It doesn't have to be illegal drugs.
Right.
You know, there are completely legitimate prescriptions out there that people get addicted to and struggle,
Right.
and they don't even intend to. It happens by accident in a lot of cases, which is, but the results are the same. It
Right.
really can ruin a family, and really, it can really hurt a lot of people in the long run, which is why I was drawn to this, you know,
Yeah,
to this
To
aspect
help.
of,
And that's great, you're out there wanting to help people. But, you know, we're out here in these small communities. We're out here on the, you know, South Fork of Long Island, the
Right.
North Fork of Long Island, pretty small communities. There can't be much of a drug or addiction problem out here, alcohol or anything. You think so? I mean, we're on the farms. How can there be much of a
No,
problem?
it's absolutely out here. It's I see in the papers periodically, on a regular basis. I mean, there's a lot of documentation with the drug problem in Long Island right now. You read about high school kids overdosing, dying from drugs, more and more, and crimes related to drugs. You know, the prescription drugs are just as bad. Pharmacies getting robbed. It really is a serious problem, and the consequences are tremendous.
Yeah.
The earlier that the problem can be dealt with, the better.
Right.
You know, it really is a disease, and substance abuse is really a disease in the sense that it's progressive, and ultimately it tends to be fatal. Or ends up in jail, you know, the individual.
Yeah, serious
So-
consequences.
Right.
Very serious consequences.
Yes.
I hear today, and again, RX generation. What's that?
Right.
Can you? I mean, I don't know what I hear about it. People talk about it. You hear see a little
Right.
blurb in the news about it. But what is
Yeah.
the RX generation?
I am familiar with the term. It really has to do with, I would say it started with the fact, maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago when they started, maybe not even, maybe less than that, when they started advertising drugs on TV and, you know, billboards. That never used to be, it never used to be that way up until just, you know, the past decade or two. And now you see drug ads on TV all the time, and really that was kind of the beginning of a change in our society, where drugs are just in your face, and everybody, you know, it seems there's a drug for everything now. And really, a lot of them have a potential for abuse.
Right.
The pain medications especially, and you know, some of the other medications that are for stress, and it's really become a society that abuses and is dependent on medications.
Do you think you sit home at night now in the evenings and you watch the evening news or anything, and every other commercial is for a prescription drug?
Right.
You know, so do you think that makes it more, you know, kids think it's socially acceptable, it's on a commercial, it's got to be okay.
Right, or it's legal, and
Right.
the same thing with alcohol. You know, the truth is alcohol is legal as well, but that doesn't mean that everybody is going to drink in moderation and consume alcohol safely.
Right,
And these prescriptions, just because a doctor is prescribing them to somebody, that that creates a thought in the person's mind that it's okay, I'm supposed to
Right.
be taking these. I hear all the time, however, that there are lots of people who start out innocently taking medication as prescribed, in particularly, like I said, the pain medications,
Right.
these opiate-based medications to relieve pain, and they become addicted. And their need for the drug, you know, once it's instilled in them,
Right.
you know, one prescription's the tolerance goes right through the roof, and now all of a sudden they need more of the drug, and really at that point then it's like the disease takes over.
Right, right, just
You
builds
know,
and builds.
Then maybe that 1 month prescription's not good enough anymore. It's only lasting 2 weeks. Next thing you know, they're purchasing drugs from a dealer.
Right,
You know,
right.
the same medication,
Yeah.
but it's just, it can start and happen that easily.
You know, multiplies.
And then from that point on, you know, who knows how much devastation it can cause. You know.
What do you think? I mean, people think drugs. They think, you know, guys our age, maybe teenagers, but older. I mean, when do you start thinking? I mean, I know when you talk to kids, but I mean, when do you start thinking about kids and drug addiction or drug abuse? I mean, is there an age, like a key age, or?
There are, it depends on how you want to look at it. As a parent, you can begin instilling, you can look out for addictive behaviors and start instilling, you know, the correct type of mentality, you know, building a close relationship with your children, like I said.
But excuse, what are you referenced addictive behaviors? What are some addictive behaviors that you would look for?
One of the keys is a lack of patience, I would say, the need for instant gratification.
Right.
I personally am a single father. I have 2 twin sons that are now 4. I try very much to maintain a loving, caring, positive you know, impact in their life. That close bond is what's important, because as time goes on, as they get a little older, building trust, I think, and maintaining that trust with your own child, and letting them know as appropriately as they, you know, get a little older.
Right.
I think entering middle school around that time, like you said, is an appropriate time to really begin to talk about drugs and alcohol with children. And, you know, you have to, you can't assume that they know, you know, how you feel. Like I
Right.
said in the beginning, a lot of kids these days get the impression that they have a right to experience, you know, trying.
Yeah, it's
you
okay
know,
to give it a
different-
try.
It's okay to try
Yeah.
this, to try
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Everyone else is doing it. You know, they see it in the movies and hear
Right.
about it in the music, and it's really a parent's job to talk about the other side of the topic there, and to talk about the risks
Right.
and the dangers and the, you know, the not so glorious
Yeah, not the
part
good
of
stuff.
it. Yeah.
But too, it sounds like too, like you're saying, the foundation for this whole, you know, looking out for your kids and seeing watching out for addictive behaviors. But the foundation, really, that you think, or at least, is love and trust, right? To have with your children.
Yeah, I think it's important to really focus on that when in the younger years. You know, I think it's the earlier the better that
Right.
you establish that close, loving, and trusting relationship with your children. That can then help. First of all, it decreases the likelihood that they may seek out drugs and alcohol. And you know, you really want to know what your kids are doing once they get into the middle school years. You want to know who they're hanging out with.
Right.
You know, you want to know which friends of theirs maybe aren't a good influence on them, and you know, your kids need to trust you that
Right.
And you really have to, you can't wait until the last minute to try to establish
Yeah,
that
then
trust.
it's too late then.
Right,
It's too late.
and then, you know, kids actually, they may be rebellious, they may act like they think they know everything,
Right.
but in reality, my experience shows that they really do want to know what their parents think,
And
know
how they
that
feel and
they
what
really,
direction they'd like
yeah,
them to
they
go.
want to know that their
Yeah.
parents care, and they want to, you know, maintain that open relationship.
Right. And you've recently left the agency and you're out counseling, going to
Right
start
now-
counseling on your own? And
Right now, yes, I'm focusing on actually the life coaching 100%.
Good.
The recovery,
Recovery.
specifically the recovery
Good.
coaching 100%.
Good.
And I like the idea of working with families as well as individuals because it's really, it's much, much more than just an individual that's involved and
Right.
that can really suffer and be affected by
Right.
the problem of substance abuse.
But somebody could, and I don't know exactly what's going to be on the graphics, either your phone or your email address, somebody could contact you and
Yeah.
you'd be willing to,
Yeah,
help them out? And-
yeah, I'll be working on a website
Okay,
in the future.
Good.
But at this point, my phone number, or I also have a Facebook page.
great, that's great.
Right.
And I mean, what should they expect from you? I mean, would you, just for the beginning, give them I don't know what they call it, but like a free 30-minute point in the right direction thing and see maybe if there's a fit professionally?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Free consultation.
Great.
You know, I'm very much, to me, I get the most out of helping other people overcome, you know, the struggles and the problems of addiction.
Right,
And, you know, whether it be working with parents who have children, or working with individuals or you know, people that are struggling with addictions
Right.
themselves. You know, I think it's all connected. It's
Right,
all important.
Right. Well, I want to thank you for being here. It's been a great half hour. It's a serious topic, and I'm
Yeah.
glad you can help people with it.
Thank you very much.
Chris.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.
Thanks very much.
That was great.